Hey guys, welcome back to the Cool Classic Cage Show, and today we're doing a complete spoiler review of episode 1 of The Last of Us TV show on HBO Max. So, this is going to be a spoiler of the first episode itself as well as the game. So, if you haven't, played the game or watched this first episode, I recommend that you go do that and not watch this unless you don't mind being spoiled. So, the first episode is named When You're Lost in the Darkness. Now, with this, I'm glad that I kind of slept on the show in terms of like watched it twice and then kind of slept on it. And I've been thinking about it a lot this morning. So I gave myself some time to process everything. And I actually have like a basic outline of things that I do want to go over in regards to this first episode because there's a lot here. This first episode is an hour and a half. And I just want to say that generally that's a lot of time for one episode, but the pacing of this episode is actually really, really good. Now, if you haven't played the video game, then maybe this pacing might be a little bit fast for you. But for me personally, knowing what I do know already off the bat, the pacing was good. I wasn't bored, and it was going pretty fast, but for me, in a way that I thought was very good and didn't waste my time. So I really appreciate that, and especially in a modern day scenario where a lot of films and television are just an entire waste of time in general. So the plot, it basically has three different time periods. First off, the show begins in 1968, and if anybody knows anything about zombies and the past, and basically George A. Romero, the father of the zombies, the original Night of the Living Dead came out in 1968. So it's pretty cool that The Last of Us TV show references 68 because this film has inspired so many zombie video games, movies, TV shows. This is the inception of the zombie in the grand scheme of things. So it was really awesome that they do reference 1968 when the original Night of the Living Dead came out. But it's kind of weird because it's like they kind of introduce the concept of viruses spreading, pandemics, and I think given the COVIDs, we already know quite a bit about how this happens, and um, it's interesting watching it from this perspective, like well before an actual pandemic of a zombie apocalypse does happen in the show. But it's kind of cool because this scene does remind me, and obviously I got to go back to my dude George A. Romero, Dawn of the Dead. But with the way Dawn of the Dead does it, with like basically the news discussing it is when the actual pandemic of this zombie apocalypse is happening, and it's chaos. Whereas this is just a basic discussion of viruses, fungus, how this stuff spreads in a very relaxed setting, even though it is a bit unsettling, the conversation in general. So I thought that was kind of cool. But I do prefer the chaos of Dawn of the Dead. But I just thought that those instances in the beginning of the show were cool. So that's 1968. Then the narrative then goes forward to 2003. And this is where we are introduced to Joel as well as Tommy and Sarah. So Joel and Sarah, basically Joel's Sarah's dad. Now, I must premise the reality that a lot of these characters don't look like themselves. That's, I guess, the giant elephant in the room, which, I mean, it is what it is. Judging by the actual acting on the show, I think that most of the characters are portrayed pretty well. I really don't have some complaints, but in regards to the general acting, I think that they really do a good job. Now, so the beginning narrative follows Sarah, which is just like the video game. Basically, she it's Joel's birthday. She basically takes his watch and takes $20 of his own money to go get his watch fixed. This is a little bit different from the video game, if I'm not mistaken, because I do recall Sarah buying Joel the watch. Honestly, it's been a while since I played The Last of Us, even though I did play it like 3 times, but it's been a few years. But I do recall her buying the watch, if I'm not mistaken. and she goes throughout her day, goes to school, goes to the shop to get the watch fixed, and she's kind of like you know uh, forced out of the shop because apparently the shop owners got a phone call that made them very unsettled about what's going on. So Sarah knows something weird is off about the day, but she's not informed. So the neighbors are introduced into this story, and that's different from the video game itself. But the neighbors serve as a way of introducing us to the threat. Now, because of the neighbors, it still remains that Sarah doesn't really know what's going on because the neighbors themselves also aren't concerned with the news and what's going on. So, um, in regards to Joel, his character, I'm iffy on. I was okay with him at first, but then I thought about it and I'm just like, I do like Pedro Pascal's portrayal of Joel, but the narrative introduces all these things about Joel that kind of bring him down. And that's not Pedro's fault at all. That's more so the narrative's fault. I am kind of concerned with how Joel's character is going to be because in the video game, Joel's like this unbreakable fucking beast. Like the dude, he's just like, and this is the thing. Like when people try to tell me that, oh, Joel's kind of a bad guy in the game, and I just tell people, no, he's not. I don't agree. He's just a father at the end of the day. But in this, I feel as though they're trying to introduce the reality that Joel is a very middle road character. They introduce the fact that he does sell drugs and he does take drugs. He's a bit of an addict. And I don't really like this because, I mean, while they do show off the fact that Joel is very serious, he doesn't fuck around, he's a beast. He actually kills the um the officer that he did sell drugs to in a very uh, brutal fashion. So in that regard, I think they do a good job of portraying Joel as the stern figure, but they also introduce these things that do break him down a little bit. And when they don't introduce things that break the female characters down a bit, I look at that like, I don't necessarily like that. So that's like sort of a pet peeve for me. It break my appreciation of Joel? No, because I do believe Joel is still there, but they definitely do try to definitely fuck around and break his character down a little bit. I guess to justify him not necessarily being a good guy by any means. So in regards to that, I didn't like that too tough. I also they kind of, poke fun at him a little bit. Sarah points out that he has his shirt on backwards, and that's not bad, but in regards to this just being the first episode, these are just things that kind of make me concerned because I mean, to be fair, Neil Druckmann is a fucking soy boy loser. He definitely doesn't like strong male characters. He prefers his female characters to play strong male characters. That's just how Neil Druckmann is. I guess I'm not going to make any derogatory statements, but yeah, I'm naturally concerned in regards to the male characters of the story. Tommy doesn't look like Tommy, but he does play the individual that plays him. His name is Gabriel Luna. Does a good job. He actually kind of sounds like Tommy, which is cool. So in that regard, I definitely don't mind Tommy. But these are like the three main characters that we're kind of dealing with in 2003. And basically, we go through Sarah's day. She eventually comes home, and we have like this great moment that is also in the video game where, Joel comes home late from work, and Sarah gives him his watch, and he finds that it's fixed, and they have a good night, just hanging out on Joel's birthday, and they also bring up the little thing where Joel asks, "How did you manage to get the money to fix this?" And Sarah's like, "Drugs. I sell hardcore drugs." So that was cool because that's a funny line from the video game itself. So I really appreciated that. And I will say Sarah as the actress that plays Sarah, her name is Nico Parker. She does a really good job. She doesn't look like Sarah at all, but the acting is definitely there. I really do like her portrayal. I think that she does a good job with what is presented to her. Now, then we get to the part where basically Tommy got arrested. Joel has to go bail him out, so he puts Sarah to bed and then he leaves. And then Sarah wakes up in the middle of the night to like choppers flying over the house. Things are kind of becoming unstable. She then goes to her neighbor's house because she notices the dog having ran away, and she finds the clicker that has killed her neighbors. And like I said, the neighbors are introduced specifically to introduce the threat, which is the clickers, and the clickers are really fast. Like they run really, 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 really fast, faster than in the video game. So they definitely pose an immense threat. The things coming out of, I guess you call them tentacles or something coming out of Clicker's mouth is so gross. I do want to discuss the general gore of this first episode. One of my concerns was that they wouldn't be violent enough or gory enough with the show, but I'm presently surprised that it's very gory, very gross. When you see the clicker for the first time, it's pretty gross. The show is TVMA, it's mature, and they do use enough gore and violence for me to be satisfied with what's presented. So that's not a concern for me personally with this first episode, and I appreciate that they did do enough in regards to that. So, but they definitely didn't go overboard either, which is a good thing. In this regard, too much is also bad. So I think it's a good enough amount of gore that I'm pleasantly surprised with. The clickers are very menacing for sure, very fast. Basically Tommy shoots the clicker and the clicker still gets up, and Joel's forced to then smack the shit out of the clicker with a wrench, a big ass wrench. So that was pretty cool. And this is where they begin their escape from the neighborhood. And this is where, like, honestly, it's one of my favorite scenes, being in that car and driving to try and get out of the city. Very effective of building tension. I think that's honestly one of the best parts of this first episode, is that attempted escape. When you're in the car with them, it's like about as much as they do, and you're freaking out because you have limited knowledge. Being while you're in that car builds a lot of tension. Everyone's freaking out. Cars are everywhere. They're all trying to escape. They end up having to detour into the city, and you just see people just running everywhere, wreaking havoc. This really does follow the actual video game very, very well, very competently, very effective. And then up until when you see the plane, and I think that the plane was a decent inclusion. Watching it crash, that was pretty damn insane. I think that was really good. That wasn't in the video game, but pleasantly, I thought that was very effective, so I appreciate that. Shit. I really, then they get to the part where they have to escape on foot. Like the video game, Tommy and Joel is separated. Joel has Sarah. Sarah can't walk, so Joel's carrying Sarah through the alleyways, and they are being chased by a clicker. And like I said, these clickers are very, very fast. They're running past everything. The clicker fucking falls on the ground like multiple times, running too fast for its own good. And then we approach what is arguably one of the most important scenes of the video game as well as the show. And that is where the clicker gets shot by military, and the military individual is told to kill Joel and Sarah. And Sarah gets shot, and it follows the video game very well. I think that the acting in this instance was really good. Sarah's actress definitely is capable of getting you in your feels with her reaction to having been shot in the stomach. And Pedro Pascal as Joel does a good job of being in that moment and just realizing like the one person he has to protect with uh is killed right before him. And Tommy shoots this military individual, and the way Tommy just stares at Sarah before Joel even realizes what has happened is that was damning. That was really damning. It's very touching. It does get you teary-eyed, like just like the video game did for me. I was both teary-eyed when I played the video game and teary-eyed watching this moment in the show. So I think that they did a really, really good ass job with that scene, which is very important to the narrative altogether. This really makes Joel that hardened individual that he is in the future by taking away his little girl. So it's very believable. And then we do transition from that to 2023 current day, where the atmosphere of 20 years later is shown to us. And they do a really good job with atmosphere. I think cinematography is really, really good. This scene where a child is introduced into the world, they're brought in by the military, and it's established that this child is indeed infected. And it's so gruesome, like how nice they are to this child in while proceeding to euthanize this child. That was pretty damning, and it just shows how heartless the world has become. And it really fucks you up because you don't really realize that the child is being euthanized until you find the dead child on a truck. And Joel and Tess, I believe that was Tess, if I'm not mistaken. Joel ends up having to throw his child into the fire to be burned. So that was damning. That was like, God damn, that's crazy. Uh, I thought that was, yeah, it definitely left a lasting impression on me personally. And we are introduced to Tess, who's dealing with Robert, and they make Robert such a cunt in this show for the small amount of time that he's there. And Robert's crew beat up Tess, and Robert essentially took Tess and Joel's money, I believe their ration cards, if I'm not mistaken. Took their ration cards that they were planning to trade for a car battery. Because at this point, Joel's goal is to reach his brother, since he and Tommy have been separated, and apparently, they're not on good terms. But Joel's trying to get a car battery to go and seek out Tommy, and Robert has that battery. Robert sells, claims that the battery was sold to someone else, and Tess is fucking livid about this shit, and they really need that battery. So it's pretty crazy because they introduce the Fireflies, which is the resistance, fighting against the military, the tyrannical military presence in the city, and it results in basically that whole area that where Joel and Tess, where Robert and Tess are having their discussion, gets blown up. And Tess, she got beat up, and now they got fucking, basically, she got beat up extra. She's trying to get back to basically where she stays with Joel, and she ends up getting arrested by the military during this situation. She's lucky she didn't get killed. But where the story does differentiate from the video game is that they basically establish that Joel and Tess are like a couple. Like, they actually show affection when Tess does get back and goes to bed, with Joel. And Joel apparently takes drugs to go to sleep. Like I said, not a big fan. I just feel like that kind of demeans Joel's character, brings him down a couple of pegs. I'm not a fan, but it really isn't that important in the grand scheme of things. But this world that's established years later is definitely a lot different from 2003, and I really do appreciate that. They really do get that across very very well. I really am appreciative of that. We are also introduced to Ellie and Marlene. Now, I know that in the game Marlene is actually said to be friends with Ellie's mother. That is not the case here, it seems like. Um Ellie was basically taken against her will by the resistance, the Fireflies, and she's kind of imprisoned. And they do discover that she had been bitten and that she had not turned. So Marlene's job is, at this point, she has to get Ellie to the Fireflies to basically, as we know in the video game story, she can have the cure potentially for this pandemic, this massive pandemic. And Marlene's character is portrayed well. If I'm not mistaken, I think that, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not completely sure. I believe that the individual that does play Marlene was actually the voice actress for the game. If I'm not mistaken. Um, I should have looked into that before doing this, but overall, she's a good character. She's tough. She definitely comes off like a leader of a resistance. Because, she's a female. So basically, they have to be perfect at being a man. That's how it is with Neil Druckmann's world, apparently. So she's adequate at being this leader. And very tough, no nonsense. But she also does connect to Ellie. Ellie's super upset. And to be honest with you, I thought the weak link of this show was going to be Ellie. Bella Ramsey actually impressed me. She doesn't look like Ellie. I know a lot of people are saying on Twitter that this is Ellie to a T. Nah, visually no, but the way that she acts really does make me reminiscent of Ellie for sure. She sounds like Ellie. She's a little smartass like Ellie. She does a very good job of playing the character, even though, once again, she doesn't look like the character. So I'm appreciative of that. I was also concerned with her accent because she just sounds weird sometimes when she's trying to sound American. But for the most part, I think that she sounded fine. I don't have a problem with how she sounds. I was genuinely impressed by Bella Ramsey playing Ellie, and this is the person I predicted would be the weak link of the show. And to my surprise, she did a good job. So basically, she's imprisoned against her will. She definitely acts like a snarky little bastard, and I like that for sure. Now, she does this a lot, which can end up bad. You don't know for sure how it's going to end up. I hope that they don't go too over the top with Ellie, because I could see that her possibly becoming really annoying to the viewer. Now, she isn't annoying, but I'm saying in the future episodes to definitely be careful how you use Ellie and how much of a little shit that you make her in certain situations. So in regards to that, she definitely talks a lot of shit. But her and Marlene have this moment where Marlene basically tells Ellie that you have a greater purpose here and you have to work with us because of the shit that we're in. So I really did appreciate that. At this point, we're in a situation where Joel and Tess need that car battery, so they're seeking out Robert. They're basically getting tips on where he's at. And the Fireflies have agreed that they're going to evacuate, I believe it's Boston if I'm not mistaken, and they're going to meet up at the same building that Joel and Tess also are told that Robert's going to be at. The Fireflies actually needed the car battery as well in order to escape. So that's where Robert comes in on that. Come to find out, this car battery is a piece of shit, doesn't work. Joel and Tess come across already Robert and his crew are dead, and they see that the car battery was a pile of shit. And then they also come across Marlene's, I don't know if that's her partner or if it's just her right hand, and Ellie. And Ellie immediately lunges at Joel with her knife, and Joel just tosses this bitch into the wall like you ain't shit, I thought that was pretty good. And Marlene is like, look, Ellie, chill the fuck out. Joel, do not point the gun at her. This is the future right here. Okay, so the way that, so they do change some things around in regards to Robert as the character. Basically, in the video game, Joel and Tess are trying to get guns from Robert, and he stiffs them. Whereas this, he stiffs them with the car battery. But this narrative, I think, even though it's a change from the game, it does a good job of bringing Joel and Tess to Marlene and the situation. Now, Marlene says, look, we're fucked. My plan did not go as planned. Robert fucked that up. I can't physically, since Marlene was injured, I believe she was shot in her side. She's like, I cannot carry out bringing Ellie to the resistance. And she basically says, like, she begs Joel and Tess to do it for her, to smuggle Ellie for her, and that if they do so, then they'll get everything they want and more, from a brand new car, well, a working vehicle, to guns, all that. And basically, given, car battery didn't work as planned, Joel and Tess don't really have much of a choice but to take on this endeavor, even though they really didn't want to. Marlene definitely is very hush-hush about why Ellie's so important, and at this point, Joel and Tess don't know why, but they just need to do the job. Just like in the game itself, so I think they did a good job with that. And at this point, they're basically waiting to be prepped, and they bring Ellie back to Joel and Tess's place, and basically, they're waiting, and Ellie's very curious and talking shit and being a little dick, and Joel is also being a dick right back, basically acting as though she's not important, that she's just cargo, which is reminiscent of the game itself, so he did a good job with that. And Bill and I believe his name is Frank are spoken of by name. They're characters in the video game, so they're confirmed to be a thing in the first episode. And so that's pretty cool, and clearly we're going to come across them in the future. So anybody who has played the game knows at least who Bill is. So that was cool. Shit, what else? So basically, Joel and Tess begin their voyage to transport Ellie, and they do come across the individual that Joel was selling drugs to, and he's trying to work out a deal to let them pass. And Ellie's just like not here for any of this nonsense talk. She just straight up stabs the dude in the leg, and basically, Joel just has this moment where he realizes, yeah, I can't bargain with this guy. Ellie definitely fucked that shit up. And at this point, he has like this flashback moment to where the officer shot his daughter, and he basically tackles the officer that's present there at the time and just beats the absolute fuck out of the officer. Beats him to death, it seems like, as far as we can tell. And Ellie, it's just interesting how Ellie watches it in this like sadistic way, like just staring like obsessively. So that definitely you take note of that moment for sure. And at this point, Tess discovers that Ellie is indeed infected, and Tess like kind of just wants to kill Ellie off the bat because she's infected. And Ellie explains, look, like this bite that I've had it for 3 fucking weeks, and I have not changed. Most people change in a day. And that is once again reminiscent of the video game itself, and they do a good job with that. So they basically discover what's going on, why Ellie is essentially important, even though they don't dive into it. But at this point, this is where the show ends, and they're on their voyage to transport Ellie, knowing what's going on. So now, there's, like I said, there's some things that are different from the video game, but there's some things that are very close to the video game. And I do think that the changes are understandable. Like, I understand why the changes are present. They have to connect the narrative in some way. And they do a good job of that specifically. Now, I think that this show, this first episode, is definitely a thumbs up. I don't do grades because I don't believe in number scaling. I think it's absolute bullshit for the most part, but it's a thumbs up. I do have some minor gripes that I did discuss, and I'm trying to think of anything else. Oh yeah, another thing I didn't like about Joel's character is that while talking to Robert, Tess is like, yeah, Joel takes orders from me. I definitely didn't like that. And it does seem as though Joel does follow Tess a little bit. It's not like beating you over the head levels of like, female dominance in as a, in the when they're trying to, like female characters playing male roles essentially. So like they didn't beat you over the head with it, but I definitely that wasn't really a line that I liked too much. I guess given the situation, I understand why she said that, so it's justifiable, but I wasn't a fan. So that's another thing I definitely wanted to include there. Overall, we go through a lot of the beginning story in this hour and a half when we're judging it from the video game. So there was a lot here. I wonder how long the second episode is going to be. I don't think it's going to be an hour and a half. It's probably just going to be an hour or in the very least about 45 minutes. So I'm personally going to continue watching this show. Now, the big question is, does the show justify its adaptation from the game? Now, while I do like this show so far with this first episode, I have to say no, it does not justify its adaptation of the game. It doesn't necessarily do anything better in my opinion. There may be some moments that you could pick and choose which you like more, but there's nothing necessarily here that's mind-blowing. Because to me personally, as a gamer, I feel like a video game is the greatest form of entertainment in modern day. Without a doubt. Film cannot, and while I do love film cannot touch it. Television cannot touch it. Video games, the fact that you as the viewer, as the person involved, can interact directly with the story, with the characters, with what's going on entirely. That to me will always hold video games to a higher level than other forms of entertainment. That's me personally. If you disagree, agree to disagree. So in that regard, the show does not justify its existence in versus the video game, especially when the video game itself is very cinematic-y. While there's a good amount of gameplay that I really did enjoy for what it was, it still plays as though it's a TV show or a film. So that's why I have to honestly say it does not justify its own existence, but for what it is, I really enjoyed it. I think that's about it, guys. Yeah, pretty much. I literally had bullet points of what to go over. But overall, this is a great start to the show. It has hooked me. I had such low expectations that I really didn't care very much, but I was going to watch it to give it a try. I have HBO Max already as it is, so why not? So given I had such low expectations and given I'm not too crazy on Neil Druckmann, I think that he's a cuck. And some of the things that Craig Mazin, the director of this episode, has said had made me concerned. Despite that, they managed to carve out a good start to a TV show. Now, this is going to be a weekly episode. If you guys want me to continue reviewing each episode in depth, I hope I had something to offer that was different from everyone else who, in fact, did their reviews of the show. If you want me to continue this, I would be more than happy to do so. So let me know what you think about the first episode, what you liked about it, if you've played the video games and how the first video game, excuse me, and how you compare this show to the video game, what you liked more or less. Let me know what you guys think about The Last of Us Episode 1 in the comment section down below. And if you can, like this video, share this video, subscribe to the channel. Follow me over on Twitch or Twitter if you want to continue the conversation. We will definitely be talking about this first episode on the Too Real for Feels podcast, so join us there this Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. It's going to be a fun time. I love the Too Real for Feels podcast. Love talking it up with the homies. And guys, with that being said, I'm out. Peace.